Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Srizavati with the Deepest Dream YouTube channel. For more movie and TV reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my channel. Oppenheimer, directed and written by Christopher Nolan, shot on IMAX cameras, epic film. It's 3 hours long. Is it worth the 3 hours? Is it worth sitting in your respective city, theater, IMAX theater and watching for 3 hours while you're holding onto your bladder for dear life? And the answer is, in my opinion, yes. I had two reactions to this movie. I saw it about almost 2 days ago. First reaction was I thought it was a very good movie, but I was slightly disappointed. I woke up the next morning and then I thought, wait, what was I thinking last night? And then I realized the movie's a masterpiece. I just needed my slow-witted brain to catch up with how awesome Oppenheimer is. Now, I'm going to really break down why I had initial reservations after watching the movie, and maybe you will too. We'll see. Okay? Just leave in the comments if you actually had the same kind of reservations or complaints coming out of your theater regarding Oppenheimer. Okay, so let's get down to the plot line. We all know what it's about. It centers on the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer, this very passionate father of the atom bomb, right? He is the head of at least the head of the Manhattan Project in the Los Alamos division. And the big thing about this movie is you're waiting for the testing of the atom bomb. Is it going to be another Christopher Nolan visual and sound epic? And the answer, we all know. I don't know if you saw the trailer, but the answer is yes. It's just, he pulls that off without a hitch. I'm sure there was months in planning the actual money-making sequence in Oppenheimer, and I think a lot of people will be watching it just to see that on the IMAX theater. That said, it's a 3-hour movie, so you need to dress up that big spectacle sequence with a story. And the good thing about it is the movie is based on the Pulitzer Prize winning novel. Let me go and look at it here. It's based on American Prometheus, The Triumph and Tragedy of J. Robert Oppenheimer, Pulitzer Prize winning book. And here's the thing. I'm not a big reader. I'm not a reader at all. I need to read more. But after watching Oppenheimer, I'm going to go save my pennies and purchase this book on Amazon because I'm so interested in Oppenheimer's life, along with the life of his wife, Kitty, played by Emily Blunt. Would love to read more about the intricacies of their relationship, as well as Oppenheimer's friendship with the people who worked with him in Los Alamos and his fellow professors in the universities that he taught at, and just so many colorful characters in this 3-hour movie. I wanted to get a little bit more in-depth by the book. Obviously, there's so much you can cover in 3 hours, and Nolan does a great job. What's good about this thing is a lot of epics, they will have an A-list actor or actress be in the movie, but they'll only use them for window dressing or maybe a quick glorified cameo. And with Oppenheimer, it's Cillian Murphy's movie as Oppenheimer, and he's going to get a Best Actor nomination. He's excellent in this film. But it's just not about him. All of I would say 9 out of 10 of the supporting players in this movie get their respective chance to shine in the sun. And these characters really feel lived in. Matt Damon as a general, Leslie Groves, who helps him. Is it Leslie Groves? Yeah. Leslie Groves, he has a big part in this movie. He helps Oppenheimer with the whole Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, and he helps with all of that. And there's also the aforementioned Emily Blunt as Kitty. She has a big role. Florence Pugh as a very important figure in Oppenheimer's life. Yes, Jean Tatlock. She plays Jean Tatlock in the movie. Wish I saw more of her. She's excellent, but you're going to realize why she's only in a certain section of Oppenheimer. Now, the big surprise for me as far as actors go is Robert Downey Jr. He plays a very intriguing character. Lewis Strauss, he is the head of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. And don't Wikipedia this Strauss before you start Oppenheimer or before you check it out this weekend. Go in pretty much blind because you're going to learn a lot more about Lewis Strauss in the film. And ultimately, he ends up being a huge character in Oppenheimer. Even though the movie says Oppenheimer, it's not just about the man. It's also Strauss, again, played by Robert Downey Jr. He has a really big subplot towards the third act of the movie. I'm not going to really mention how that interweaves with Oppenheimer. You will find out if you actually read up about it before going to the movies. But again, like I said, just if you're as naive as me about the whole Manhattan Project, Oppenheimer, and relationship with Strauss and the government, et cetera, go in blind and then learn from Nolan's movie. So the reason why I was a little bit mixed on the movie coming out, saying, oh yeah, very good movie, technical achievement, another Nolan. Kudos to Nolan for being a great filmmaker, right? The only flaw I saw was at the initial reaction was the third act is very dialogue driven, very exposition laden, A lot of arguments are thrown, cross-examinations, witness, and manipulations, and it's just dialogue upon dialogue upon dialogue. Most filmmakers will shoot that in a very static, coverage-based fashion. Obviously, it's Christopher Nolan, so he's going to add as much visual and editing and music flair to the proceedings. And even with all those Nolan elements, you could still feel the weight and the weariness of the dialogue, and it eventually gets to you. It got to me towards the end, and I was very tired by the end of Oppenheimer. Of course, I am an old man. That's another reason why. But just thinking about it the next day, that's the intended effect for what transpires in the third act. You're supposed to get a little bit beaten down or beleaguered by all that dialogue in the film, because it is a wearying process for Oppenheimer, okay, so without giving too much away. So I actually warmed up to the third act the next morning when I woke up. And now eventually hopefully when I get this movie on physical media, save money to buy it on 4K, the first part I'm gonna rewatch it. As far as the scenes that I'm gonna rewatch over and over again, it's not going to be that explosion testing sequence in the film. It's going to be the dialogue stuff, because I'm a pretty huge fan of courtroom drama, testimony dramas. It's just at that time with that 3-hour running time, it just really took a lot out of me. So steel yourself for those moments. And who knows, maybe you might even like it a lot more than I did within your initial reaction. But I guess right now, 2 days out, that initial reaction turned to a ton of praise for me. I don't really see any weaknesses in this movie. Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, just so many great performances in this movie. And I'm sure I'm missing Josh Hartnett's also very good. There's just so many great performances in this film. And it's one of those rare films where the ensemble cast is used to the best abilities, especially with 3 hours. Even with all of these talented actors, there's just not enough time for all of them to fit in their respective, not character arcs, or just their respective moments. I love Olivia Thirlby. She's in it for several scenes. Wish I saw more of her. Hopefully there is a Christopher Nolan 4.5-hour cut, and we'll get to see more of these supporting players. But I think he did a great job at making this a very character-driven film. I think the people who will be disappointed in Oppenheimer are the ones who are really into Nolan as a visceral filmmaker with his skills at choreographing, shooting action, and sound design, and editing, and storytelling. But I think a lot of Nolan's enthusiasts and a lot of Nolan's fans really appreciate the world that he builds within each film he directs. And I think as far as world building goes and this topic, this is personally my favorite Nolan film as we speak. In 2 days afterwards, I have my own biased love for Batman Begins and The Prestige, his earlier stuff. But lately, I definitely need to rewatch Dunkirk again. But I remember being blown away by that film several years ago when it premiered. I actually saw it in the same theater. But when I saw Dunkirk several years back, I said to myself, yeah, I'm going to see this movie again. And I never got to it. But I know with Oppenheimer, because of the subject matter involved, the great performances, I was just pretty much drawn in. There's just so much to really unpack that you can't really fully appreciate the movie upon a first viewing. So I think Oppenheimer has a ton of rewatchability. It's a huge rewatchability factor to it. And I really loved everything about this movie. My rating for Oppenheimer, initially I was going to give it like maybe 3.5 to 4 stars coming out of the theater. First initial reaction, thinking about the dialogue, but then just after a night's sleep, this is 5 stars for me. Classic masterpiece. And it's one of these things where it's 5 stars. I don't see it going any lower. I just think I'm sure there's so many things I missed upon the initial viewing of Oppenheimer. Would love to think what you guys think of Oppenheimer. Is this movie a masterpiece for you? Did it disappoint you? How was it in your respective theater in IMAX? Okay, so we'd love to hear all those things. Again, Deepest Dream YouTube channel for movie reviews and TV reviews, as well as interviews. Oh, wait, hold on. And every week I do a cinematics podcast. And every week I do a podcast called Cinematics with my buddies, Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes. Check that out as well. Thanks so much for listening to this all over the place review. And hopefully I didn't spoil too much for you regarding New York